What's up, everybody? This will be a different kind of video. I am waiting for some cards to come in still. So, I mean, I'm just really jonesing for this, just kind of getting this deck out there. And I'm still going to do like the in-card reveal. But I just wanted to kind of give you like a visual way of how I like kind of go about, building decks, how I enjoy playing decks and kind of seeing what cards I like to see in the deck, whereas some don't make the cut and some others do. So, for instance, this particular deck is focused on Aragorn the Uniter, and this one was just always like one that had caught my eye kind of early on. It just seemed to like have an incredible amount of text on it, and I'll go ahead and read the card for you. So, Aragorn the Uniter, red, green, white, and blue. Legendary creature, a human noble. Whenever you cast a white spell, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Whenever you cast a blue spell, scry 2. Whenever you cast a red spell, Aragorn the United deals 3 damage to target opponent. Whenever you cast a green spell, target creature gets 4/4 until end turn. So pretty much like, across the board, like playing multicolored spells, you see like the Oops All Charms decks with Aragorn where he's just getting like an abundance of triggers, like setting off all the modes at once. That's obviously a very good way to do about this. And of course, there's many good multicolored spells. The blue one has definitely grown on me a lot more. That's Scry 2. That's just a very powerful effect to kind of keep on top what you want. Maybe put stuff, other stuff that might not be useful to the bottom. I think that's very good. And this deck that I've kind of taken into a direction, I think it got a little bit sweatier. Just playing it on Arena. At first I was playing like an abundance of creatures, like a whole bunch. Like really, really going kind of ham with the creatures, and that was a way to kind of go about it. But when you're playing against those 1 versus 1 formats on Arena, and especially in the Brawl format, you're really susceptible to like board wipes and such, and mid-range, and that is definitely a pivot. That's probably your pivot, right? Where when you identify that you're gonna have to maybe adopt like a more kind of long game plan. That's kind of what we're working towards. Like not just shooting off everything, shooting off all our creatures. It's nice to curve into them, and sometimes we'll get victories that way. But more often than not, when you're playing against those blue and white colors, and sometimes even black and red, they're going to have those board wipes, and they're going to devastate you, and you're going to be out of gas. They're going to have many more cards, and many more cards that give them value, and you're not going to last much longer. So that's my spiel about that. So what I'm going to show you today is kind of just like basically like a move from Brawl, for instance, going from Brawl to a EDH format. So I believe this is the one that I wanted to show. Okay, now this is not the one. My bad. Let's see. Let me just go back to this. This is the EDH version here, but I definitely wanted to kind of like demonstrate the Brawl version. So let me see if I have that. If I don't, it's a fail, but it's okay. And I still will probably talk about this deck anyways, just because I think it's very, very good to talk about. Let's see. So we have lots of decks here, as we can see. So we're just going to be looking at months, I suppose. This is Moxfield, of course. And Moxfield is just a very good way to kind of like organize all your decks and such. So, I probably didn't even post this one. I probably just went straight to Commander. It seems I did, which is fine. So maybe I won't show you the contrast, but we can just look at kind of like where the deck has kind of ended up. And I think really, really what we just want to kind of start with is our removal package here. So you see like we have like kind of an abundance of different ways to like kind of interact with our opponents and the cards that they're playing. I feel Brotherhood End is just a fantastic card. Whether you're removing artifacts that are 3 mana value or less, or doing 3 damage to everything on the board that's a creature or a planeswalker, I think that's very good and reasonable for that 3 mana rate. Additionally, let's see here. Burn down the house. I like that as an option too. What's nice about Burn Down the House is that I believe like this one's fine because Aragorn can kind of get out of that range sometimes. of the five, the 5 damage, which is good. Like sometimes we want to preserve our commander while, kind of removing other stuff that's like 5 power or less. So I feel that's a good option for this particular deck. This is kind of a catch-all card, right? Is Farewell. I believe it's a very good card. I think it's a game-winning card. So Farewell definitely makes the cut. It just hits all those things that you want it to hit. Can be very selective. It usually is going to be hitting creatures for sure, right? Because that has to be like one of the more popular kind of card types is creatures. So basically, if we're going to be playing a card like this, we want to, we're still going to be playing creatures, but they're definitely going to be like probably a little higher mana value and definitely provide us more value. Okay, so that would be kind of the point of having a card such as this. Here's Incandescent Aria. This one's an interesting one for Aragorn. You see, it can activate all the modes of Aragorn, which is nice. Additionally, it won't hit tokens, so our like 1/1 tokens can stick around, which is really interesting because Aragorn does make a lot of 1/1 tokens, and we actually will make an abundance of tokens. Let's just pivot here so you can kind of see the tokens that we're talking about here. So, for instance, the third path Iconoclast makes the soldier artifact creature tokens. Additionally, Monastery Mentor will do that as well. And then additionally, we have Kaikar over here. So we're going to definitely have some token synergy. And this ability to like kind of, set off Aragorn, of course, is, a big plus. And it still do 3 damage to each non-token creature, which is nice, right? Additionally, we have Path to Exile. So, we're going to have like the best white removal on the bottom end, right? Those nice instant speed removals that just exile, for instance, like a Path to Exile or a Swords to Plowshares. Those just extremely strong, cheap, efficient mana removal, single target removal spells that are just the best. Just the absolute best of the best, right? Additionally, there's Path, Prismari Command. I've never been upset about this card. I feel it's very very versatile. And, we can ramp with it if we want. We can, like, look through some cards. We can take out some artifacts, maybe take out a creature. I definitely like Prismari Command in that 3 spot. Additionally, we have a land such as Shatterskull Smashing that can act as a removal spell, of course, or we can just go ahead and flip that over and act as a land at any time by paying 3 life, and it will come in untapped. That's a nice one. Now, this is like probably my favorite card in like probably the whole deck is the Spikefield Hazard. And why Spikefield Hazard? Like, it only deals 1 damage to any target. What's so good about this card? Well, the thing is it can flip over into a land. It can act as a land, which is just amazing. You can play it on turn 1 and maybe not be punished too bad, right? Get into your other stuff, right? Additionally, what's great about Spikefield Hazard is that it's like a great cantrip for like our Urabrask. So, for instance, we have our Urabrask here, and playing those cheap 1 mana instants or sorceries, we can kind of get the Urabrask train going, and then eventually we can flip Urabrask and derive all that benefit. I'm kind of curious if it'll let me flip this card. There we go. Fantastic. And we can see that this saga is just fantastic. It's going to deal 3 damage to an opponent's board, one of them, right? Target one of them. Then in Chapter 2, create 3 treasure tokens, fantastic ramp. And then on Chapter 3, until end of turn, you may cast instants or sorcery spells from your graveyard. If the spell cast this way would be put into a graveyard, exile instead. Exile the great work, and then return it to the battlefield. So, you can utilize all the spells from all the graveyards, okay? They all become yours. You can utilize them all. You don't have to choose. And you can see he flips back over, Urabrask, and then you can start the chain again. So what an amazing card, right? I really love Urabrask a lot. And it makes sense that it has that $20 price tag. It really does. Okay. So, back to our removal here. So, We're back to Spiteful Banditry. This is just a nice one. Once again, just a very selective kind of board wipe where we can kind of dictate how much damage we want to do to things and derive a treasure. It sits down as an enchantment, and then like we're just creating treasures. When a creature dies, it triggers once a turn for that. Okay, so that's nice. Nice little form of ramp too. And then Sunfall. Woo, baby. Just a nasty, nasty white card. You know, these cards are so nasty. These single target removal spells that white has, these exiling board wipes, they're just disgusting. Like, they're so, and you'll know, like, even in standard, like, playing against Sunfall is just, like, unnerving because you have to play around it all the time. You have to just, like, you can't commit to boards. Like, there's no reason to put out, like, more than 3 creatures on a board when you have, like, a Gandalf just chilling because you're playing in with our Sunfall and you don't get value from any of your creatures because they're exiled. So you can't, you're like, for instance, your Fire Exceeding Dragon engines, they just die. Like your hermits, like those hermits, like anything that goes to the graveyard you get value from, they just disappear. So it's a nasty, super nasty card. And the fact that you make a token that that has 1+1/+1 based on how many creatures were exiled, and you get to transform that for 2 is just the cake, just the icing on the cake. So there's Sunfall. Additionally, Supreme Verdict as an uncounterable Wrath. I think that's kind of important to have too. You know, you could play like a Wrath of God, but those can be countered. This one can't. So it's really kind of something. So, you know, the gist out of all these kind of like removal spells, you can see the importance of just playing like Wraths or, you know, these board wipes, you know, another word for it, you know, these type of effects are just extremely important, and they give you an edge. They give your game plan a little bit of edge, a little longevity. They can always keep you kind of in the game. So that's my spiel about the board wipes here, right? So in terms of counter magic, you know, we have this nice suite, right? Nice suite of you know, ones that might be lands. Mana Drain, of course, is fantastic. Pact, a new one, then 3 Steps Ahead, which is kind of a nice one there. Of course, an offer you can't refuse. This is just a nice one spot. You can even play like maybe a Wash Away, but I'm not really finding a cut for Wash Away at this time. But Wash Away is a good catch-all for like your commander, your opponent's commanders and such that are being played from, not played from a hand, but from somewhere else other than their hand. So those are very good, right? So yeah, of course, Mana Drain is just like, has to be just the craziest. You know, the fact you're countering a spell and then you're adding mana equal to that spell's mana value, you can just all of a sudden like create like a 7 colorless on your upkeep, you know, or your next main phase. It's this really crazy stuff. So yeah, Mana Drain, there's kind of an amazing card. Additionally, just running some basics here. You can see kind of the basics we're running. The snow was from playing Into the North on Brawl. I just didn't change them, and I think they're just cool anyways. So obviously you just be playing like regular basics, and I have the one from Ixalan. I love those large art basics. So we got those. Got our dual lands here, the ones that are shock lands at least. So they're all organized here. So those are our nice shock lands that we can go ahead and fetch those up. See where the fetches are. Here's our fetch lands, just kind of your basic ones that match our colors. Obviously, I'll make a comment about this, is that probably the major value within our deck, monetarily wise, and money, has to do with our lands. They're so very expensive. So I basically like have like probably, I'd say like 2 main sets of these. Like I have 2 sets of shocks, fetches, and channel lands. I might even have like 3 sets of channel lands because they just go into every freaking deck I have. Maybe 4 sets. You know, I probably have like 4 Boseijus lying around, and that's crazy. It's like I just finally stopped. You know, it's like I don't need to buy any more Boseijus. I have enough. and they're like what, $45 each. So it's like I really don't need to buy any more Boseijus. $34. So, but yeah, these can kind of add up into your wallet, but they're so very good and so adaptable, right? Where you don't really get any penalties for running these in your deck. You can have, if you for instance need green and white mana on your first turn, you can set that up with like your mana dork, and then all of a sudden you're playing Uro on the next turn with your halfling, and it's just like a snowbally effect, right? Where you just have all your mana, you can get to all your colors no matter what. So these are just really just amazing. Additionally, we have running a plaza here too, so that's nice. Some nice protection for our commander and our legendary spells. What's really cool about plaza is that once you have a legendary creature down, plaza will tap for that any of the colors that are in that legendary creature's color identity. So that's really nice. Additionally, we have the Surveil lands here. These are new ones. These are really great for like buffing up our Mizzet's Mastery and our Uros and getting us some looks when we're like fetching up some lands. If we don't need to use that mana readily, we can just go ahead and Surveil. So really good stuff, and has that island and mountain. You can see these lands kind of demand a price too. So there's that. Then of course we have our like rainbow lands here. These are just amazing, right? Like City of Brass, Command Tower, Exotic Orchard, and Mana Confluence. So yeah, those ones are good. We talked about Shatterskull Smashing already. We have Turn Burst Symbiosis here, which is a land that can act as, pay 3 life to play it untapped. Or for the 7, you can use it as a spell. And basically tutor for like a card in the top 7, a creature card with any mana value. Okay, so that's a nice one. And then, of course, we have the Seagate Restoration here, which is just also a very nice one where we can, draw the amount of cards that are in our hand at the time, +1. And then we have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. So that's probably one of the more expensive multi-face land cards. So there's that. And then, of course, there's Ameria's Call, which will create the angels. So that's very nice, of course. All right, so let's get into like our mega value here. These are all just cards that are just like fit that mid-range playstyle very well. Having big score is available as like an instant. We could hold up counter magic for a turn, just chill. We can protect our commander. We can look for answers. We can draw some cards, make some treasure. There's definitely like a treasure backbone to this deck, especially because we're running like a mid-range kind of play style. Like having like a Goldspan Dragon is very important. This one will discard a card into our graveyard, draw 2, create 2 treasure tokens. That's nice. Honestly, the big score, I wouldn't say it offers like a ton of card advantage. It offers like a single card. It's the treasures that are beneficial, right? Additionally, you have like the Bonehorde Dracosaur here, where this one is just really crazy because this thing just has to stick around for a turn, and then all of a sudden you're drawing like 2 cards basically go into exile. You can play those from your turn, and then if the verbiage is if you exiled a land card, create a 3/1 red dinosaur creature token. If you exiled a non-land card this way, create a treasure token. So let's go ahead and like exile land, and let's exile like a counterspell, and then all of a sudden we made a 3/1 and a treasure, and then we also still get to play those 2 cards from exile. So you can just see it's just like an incredible value engine. So that's really the point, and that's really the idea I want to hammer home to you today, is that we can play these like kind of mid-range strategies. We can get a lot of value of our creatures. We don't need to play 3 mana creatures that are just going to fold to board wipes and such. We can play a board wipe, and then we can get into a card like Bonehorde Dracosaur and start kind of dictating what we want to do from there. We can also play really expensive planeswalkers too, like a Chandra, where this is a devastating card to play against. It just has so many features. Like it could start removing things. Like it could remove like 2 targets, while still keeping its loyalty at 1. You could do like 4 damage to 2 targets really quick by doing its -X. You can do its +2 to get like some nice instance of sorceries going. Even the turn it comes down, we can like, go ahead and play like a nature's lore, for instance, and then when we'd copy that spell, and get two nature lores going. It's just kind of a major value. So that's why it's our mega value. Even like just like a 4-mana Chandra, just these planeswalkers are just nice to kind of sit into the side, just kind of tick them up, get a little value out of them, maybe look for cards, maybe do some damage to things. It's kind of just a nice one there. Escape to the Wilds is just like one of those fantastic cards where we're going to be able to play an additional land on a turn, and also look at a bunch of cards as well, like 5 cards at a time. And it's just great for Aragorn, right? It sets off Aragorn, the multicolored spells. It just seems like a nice choice for us. Really, my favorite interaction is like this, like an Urabrask can escape to the wilds, and you just have to hit like 2 more instants or sorceries for the turn, and then you have a flipped Urabrask, so I really like that interaction. Fable to basically kind of look through our deck, create like a board presence, So the strategy with this is that if you had like an opening with like a Brotherhood's End and a Fable, that Mirror Breaker, your inclination may be to play Fable first because it's just an amazing turn 3 play. But we're probably going to want to get the value out of our Brotherhood's End first, right? And we don't want to hit our stuff. We don't want to hit our 2/2 Shaman. We don't want to hit our 2/2, Fable, the Mirror Kiki-Jiki card either. So it's kind of important that we kind of plan this out. So you might have to utilize your brain a little bit and kind of plan stuff out a little bit more. This is definitely not like a deck where you can just kind of like, spew like your traditional play patterns. You might have to like think more long term and preserve the value in your cards. All right, so here's Mizzet's Mastery, and it's just a bomb, right? It can catch. It could play some catch up, definitely. Like you might put something in your yard, like an Amiria's Call, and you might be able to like stave off maybe a worse position. Maybe you get a board presence going. It's like that kind of card, right? Where you can get some value out of like these huge mana spells, that usually you wouldn't. You just have to get them in your graveyard. So that's what Mizzet's Mastery does, and it's a cast. So once again, like if you have your Urabrask down, and also for Aragorn, he loves this card too because he gets 2 casts. You get your Mizzet's Mastery, and then whatever is in your graveyard, that's also casted as well. So you may copy and you may cast a copy. So you see how that works, right? So additional casts. We love casts. We're just going to be like playing an abundance of casting, or just casting. So there's that. We do like the Questing Druid. I think I may have had like a expressive iteration in this spot, but I just like the Questing Druid also acts as like a spell that like can come down later to proc Aragorn. I like that about it. I think it's great. Then we have Smothering Tithe to just create abundance of treasures. Treasure Cruise to kind of get into our graveyard and draw some cards. Unexpected Windfall, kind of similarly to the big score. We'll try this one out. I think we'll do fine. Like if the mana seems to be poor, if I get into trouble casting this, I'll give it a shot. Like I want to give it a couple tries. But if that 2-red kind of interferes with me casting it when I want to cast it, then it's probably a cut for like an expressive iteration, to be honest. But right now we're going to try like a bigger spell, payoff spell like Unexpected Windfall. Then you have Wandering Mind, just another fantastic card. Really good with our like Fable of the Kiki-Jiki token, where you're just copying the spell over, making the token, getting that ETB, looking 6 deep, revealing a non-creature non-land card. It just goes real deep. Real nasty card. Probably should be played a lot more often, to be honest. But I don't know if it's in rotations, though. Here's Whirlwind of Thought, and this is just an amazing card that gets value off of all of our non-creature spells. Each time we play one, for instance, like Spikefield Hazard, all of a sudden just draws this card when we cast it. And then Zurgo and Ujutai. This one's a nasty one where... And it kind of fits in with our dragons, too. Because, we have like the Bonehorde Dracosaur and the Goldspan Dragon. And then we also have... Yeah, that's the extent of that. So that one can come down for the turn. connect with an opponent, deal combat damage to them, and then look at the top 3 cards of our library, put one of them to your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. You may return one of the dragons to its owner's hand. So this thing is hexproof. The turn it comes down, you can flash it back to your hand if you'd like. If you want to take over that kind of role of kind of being the police and kind of keeping the board nice and tidy. If you want to play that kind of game style, you can do that, right, with a Zurgo and Ujitai. This one is a crazy new one, the Ogier Patique. So this one is whenever you cast an instant spell from your hand, it gains a rebound. So what a nasty one this is, huh? Where it's just gonna like double our Escape to the Wilds or double our big scores. So just kind of an amazing card here. Also, when it dies, it can be turned into a land, which is nice. So we can get some value out of it if it does die, and we can return it to a, if we tap this like 3 times, and then we pay into this. So it's interesting, right? For our tutors, we have like Eladamri's Call. That one's probably our primary target's going to be Urabrask, so that's a nice target for us. And then we have kind of like a plan B beatdown plan with like Jetmir. These just nice 4 mana spells like Jetmir and Narset. These are just really nice ones for us. Additionally, we have the Monastery Mentor in the 3rd Path Iconoclast to build those tokens. And then we're just playing our Arcane Signet to like tap for any color of our commander's color identity, which is very good. Additionally, have a few mana dorks like Birds of Paradise, Bloom Tender. There's a new one that just came out in Modern Horizons 3. It's like a snake of some sort, but it taps for 4 forest if you have a creature. It's like an Elysian Caryatid on steroids. But Bloom Tender is kind of like always there, right? And that's kind of similar to what it does with you're not going to have Aragorn on turn 3 unless you're really smoking, right? So in some circumstances, you might have a couple mana dorks down with Bloom Tender on turn 2 and turn 2 or 3, I suppose, and get that 4 mana tap when Aragorn comes down off of other mana dorks. But other than that, it's not going to happen very often. But more often than not, it's going to act as like that 4 mana dork, which is great for Aragorn. Then you have Cultivate here, just like an OG spell to kind of get us into those lands. Delight a Halfling for a little bit of ramp. Dryad to fix our mana, to let us play an additional land on our turn. Elvish Mystic. Goldspan Dragon. Just lets our treasures to be tapped for additional mana, which is very nice for us. Nature's Lore. These are the nice ones that basically fetch us a forest and it just comes in untapped. Noble Hierarch. This is our 1 mana play. Another mana dork here. So taps for 3 different colors, which is nice. Ragavan, of course. Ragavan gets us a little card advantage when we connect and makes us a treasure, which is very cool. Selvala is like a no-brainer for Aragorn because Aragorn gets a little bit stronger with those green spells, and then Selvala will start tapping for 8, 12 mana at a time. And then your opponents are going to be having a problem. 3 visits, another source of mana ramping, and then Uro. This one is also very nice, right, guys? That escape cost, you can bring it back. We'll sometimes get into your graveyard, like by chance, and then you can have like a nice 6/6 body that comes out, gains some life, draws a card, makes you ramp a little bit. It's just fantastic. Here's the roaming throne that's not $20 as Veyran for us. So whenever we cast an instant or a sorcery spell, whenever it causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So you can imagine that we have lots of like triggered abilities here. Like, they're just like everywhere. These prowess abilities and Monastery Mentor. Yeah, we have like an abundance of activated abilities, even like the Urabrask, right? Bergi, of course. We'll get into that, but this card's really nasty and will also kind of double up our Aragorn triggers, so that's nice. So then we have like our kind of spell slinger package here. And what's nice about these is we have a couple creatures that will reduce the cost of our instants and sorceries, like Baral and Goblin Electromancer. I really took this inspiration from an opponent on the Brawl queue when they were playing Kaikar. They were playing an assortment of these cards like Kaikar and Bergi, Baral, Goblin Electromancer, and I was like, well, that seems very good, and they did very well that game. So I want to kind of emulate that. So kudos to them. This was an amazing card, and I kind of downplayed it because it was so cheap, so affordable. But I think it's been printed so many times. I think that's maybe why its cost is so down. But guys, this is not a card to sleep on. The Kaikar is just an absolute phenomenal card, probably a great commander. I've seen other people play it in the LGS, and this thing with like for instance, a Bergi is just really strong. Bergi, Goblin Electromancer, and Kaikar, you can just basically storm off in your deck because your spells are reduced, and then you're creating spirits to create more mana off those spells. So you're having like kind of a perfect storm of replacing the spells, whatever you paid into it, with spirits, and you're just kind of keeping that chain going. So that's an amazing interaction. So Bergi, of course, creating mana for playing your any spell whatsoever, you get red. So yeah, that's a crazy card here as well. Electrostatic Field, because we are going to be playing the red O'Hare. So that's just like another really fun kind of interaction where, our non-creature spells are going to be doing 4 damage de facto with O'Hare out. And then Electrostatic Field is kind of works into that where we're just pinging our opponents for like 4 damage at a time. With O'Hare out, similarly with Fire Inscription, it will do the same thing. Fire Inscription always does 2 de facto, whereas Electrostatic Field will just do 1 at a time. So that's kind of the difference between the two. But this is just a creature, which is nice, an 0/4 wall. Well, this is an enchantment. So then, of course, we have Strike It Rich. This card that because it has flashback, it can like kind of get you over the hump and get you that extra cast sometimes, like with an Urabrask or maybe even Aragorn to like finish off that damage. So Strike It Rich is just, of course, really great with that flashback, and it also creates treasures. So, I mean, that is kind of the gist of it. Let's just see, like maybe it's kind of, what I like about this is that we can kind of play test this out, and that's what's fun. Sorry, I dealt this one, so let me just put this one over here. But yeah, it's really kind of nice just to kind of see like kind of where the deck is doing and how it's going to operate. So of course we could just fetch here, and play like it looks like we're going to have, I think green white would be fine here. It looks like, or maybe even like green white, because we have blue red here. We have also a dual land there. So this would actually just, we have an Uro turn set up so that I think we would have drawn into this, like this. And then we can go ahead and go like that, go into Uro here, draw. And then we can go ahead and surveil with a Thundering Falls. Or you could even keep up like a swords here if you wanted, depending on the situation. I'm looking for our surveil. Do we need land here? Seems pretty good. Yeah, so we could keep that land, of course. See what our next play would be. So Uro would go here to like kind of our adventure zone. Just go ahead and put it in the graveyard, it's fine. Additionally, we'd have a land in there already, kind of juicing up that guy. So, I mean, we can already go into like Aragorn here if we wanted to. If we wanted, I mean, that would be like a play. Would there be any like benefit to like playing Bergi? You could too. You could keep up like a Jawari. Really just depends on how aggressive you want to be, and get down Bergi if you wanted and start that train. So yeah, you could like keep up Bergi here and keep up the Mystic and the Breeding Pool if you wanted. Lots of choices here. Go into our next turn. Suppose like if we did go into Escape of the Wilds, you can kind of like see what we get into at least. Can probably play an abundance of spells. Remember that Bergie also creates a mana off of this, so we could keep up like one of our duels, our rainbow lands here. Look at 5 cards. And we can kind of storm off a little bit here with Bergie. Play an additional land here, shock this in, get into like a cultivate, and then we're kind of getting ahead a little bit. I do like Aragorn too, though, because Aragorn kind of like, gets into these two and really puts a lot of pressure on the opponents. So I mean, that would be another way, and you'd still have like some counter magic available. So it's really up to you. It's like kind of like up to you to kind of figure out what you want to do with the deck, right? Of course, I do like the Bergie play too, because you have Uro here that can just kind of stomp back out. We can get Aragorn down, and then Uro start drawing cards again. Got a Whirlwind of Thought here. Burn down the house. So yeah, that was a fun one, guys. So this was a different video, and I thought it was very cool. So shout out to Moxfield. This is the way I kind of go about putting my decks together and kind of getting them all out there. I think I've been using this for, looks like about a little over a year ago. So it looks like I started off with the Royal Scions here, and then put out some Greasefang decks along the way. So yeah, all right, that's it, everybody. So that's a fun video. Have a great day.